like a few were down for my
All right, you kids. Okay. All right. Everyone finished their garbanzo, sardine, and eggplant quiche foil dinners.
Delicious.
Hey, Arnie. I thought I heard you puking in the latrine. Oh, no stories till you clean up your mess.
I promise it's clean, Grandpa Melvis. Tell us a story, please.
All right. Okay.
Tell us a story.
All right. Okay. Well, y'all shut the hell up! Huh. Well, that's better. Huh. I'm gonna tell you boys about the story of Gederick Munns, a local man from our very hometown of Gumption, Utah. Old Gederick was a simple trailer park man who'd worked at the Carnival 27 years and never hurt nobody. Had a wife, small wiener dog, and a newly born baby boy.
He had a small wiener.
Shut up, Arnie!
I told you, Arnie.
Nobody at Gumption ever knew just why, but one day, old Gederick blew a fuse. They say he'd been drinking something fierce and smoking that nutmeg and wacky tobacco. Him and his wife, they got into a fight. She took the kid and got a place of her own. He couldn't stand the jealousy and the loneliness and the despair. So one night, one lonely night, he decided if he can't have his wife and his kid, no one can.
What's wacky tobacco, Grandpa, mate?
Shut up, Arnie. You too, fat kid. And so, one dark, cloudy night, this old Gederick feller went out with a butcher knife and got revenge on his wife the only way he knew how. He kidnapped his own child, took him home to his trailer, cut him into pieces, cooked him up, and ate him for supper.
so I'll take what I might. I'm the intruder, so I intrude into their home where the hours until. Hand me my seed, a violent feud. I'm the intruder, and so I intrude. So I make haste, not letting any of the meat go to waste. No one can tell if I'll be in hell, being the butcher that needed the taste. I am the baker, baking my seed, squeals from the oven are all that I need. To save the smell, savor indeed. I am the baker and now I must feed. Social liar, in my own casket of nature I lie. I understand that by my own hand I am the reaper and now I must die.
Yes, we clap and fap for ourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to introduce my own band, actually. Yes, we are fucking just self-absorbed, goddamn shameless promoters. Self-promoters, I mean. This is the Delphic motherfucking Quorum. Give it up for yourselves, guys. Oh, wait, we just did. All right. So we're trying and eliminate the talking as much as possible because we've got an album that we are promoting here. It is called History, A People's Tale. And it dates back to the beginning of this band, which is almost 12 years now. In fact, if I can remember right, our first show was December 18th, 2009, I think.
Yeah.
And so right now it's November 3rd. This is going to be broadcast here in a couple of days on this coming Saturday. And we actually had a couple of bands or artists who were going to be scheduled, and it just happened that they canceled because of sickness and whatnot. So it wound up that the Delphic Quorum gets to be here for our 100th episode of KWJUDAS. So there's a lot of special shit happening here tonight.
Man, Judas, I gotta say, if you recall, the first episode of KWJUDAS was with Delphic Quorum.
It was.
Yes, and we did a live track, or a live take of all of our songs.
We
back
absolutely
then.
did. First episode and 100th. You're right.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And it happened by coincidence, too. We weren't even planning this. So what we were going to do is we were going to talk a little bit about the songs in between each track. A lot of the reason why it took us so long to get this album put together and we were so rushed is we were kind of waiting for a voice actor. We had a lot. I mean, besides all the other things that happened over the years, we decided we were finally going to release this Halloween, which has already passed.
The recording studio we started in shut down and we couldn't continue with them.
Yeah, and then we moved to Rigby Road, which got sold out.
They're the ones that shut
that's
down.
where we started.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Well, they still finished the album, but we still had to get it mastered in Springville.
Yeah.
Well,
by
That's
so
just-
Art City Sound.
Right. To get to the point, we're going to talk about.
But yeah, one thing at a time here. So the Halloween release, we were still very extremely rushed, and that first track was written like 2 years ago. I wrote the script, and we were going to get Chef Daddy to do it as Grandpa Melvis, and just one thing kept leading to another, where he was not able to be on this track, unfortunately. And so I kind of had to take the liberty and step in as Grandpa Melvis, because we had no time. It was like October, and we're just like, we need to get this done. So we're sorry, Chef Daddy, that we could not include you on this.
But Chef Daddy, at the same time, he just went through surgery.
He's been through a lot of shit.
We wish you a hasty recovery.
Yes,
Chef
we hope
Daddy.
you're doing well.
We miss you and wish you a hasty recovery.
So the next track was The Thief. Oh, one more prop that I have to give out for actually two more that I need to give out for the first track. I put that whole thing together myself. That's my first time doing something like this. And we had our good friend Singe doing the background music, that creepy organ stuff. So props go out to Singe for that.
Singe.
And also my brother-in-law, Fart Eyes, Matt Spar, he provided the background nouses for the crickets and the frogs and all that.
The knack drawing mouses.
Yeah, I didn't just download those offline. He actually provided the crickets and frogs and swamp noises and shit. So thank you, Matt, for helping out with that. So then we had The Thief, which came up next, which is a song that we've been playing for... That's like one of our oldest songs.
Over a decade.
Yeah. That features me on lap harp. We had Angela Moore on violin at first, and the Wizard on the djembe. And after Angela left, unfortunately she wasn't able to record with us, so a lot of these songs, Adam had to actually step in and learn her parts for trombone. And some of them, that's became his live part, his permanent part.
Yes.
A lot of them, we were like, there's still no violin here, so what do we do? So Shlong Bob even took the liberty of stepping in on the trumpet and playing the violin parts. Those we're going to get to next. He didn't do that on the Thief here, but he did learn Angela's part.
I actually did, if you recall. It actually does have trumpet on the Thief.
It does. No,
right.
Yeah.
So, quick story on that really fast. I'm actually pretty proud of that track because most of those original tracks I recorded for our first album, The Cerebral Sphincter Siphon. We recorded those in my basement.
More of a single, but
And we managed to rescue and use most of those tracks in during our recordings in Rigby Roads. They used those.
It's true. I mean, essentially,
those tracks were my original recording.
Since the Wizard had gotten that first The Thief done for our single, we definitely used that for this as kind of like a base to go on. So
yeah, we liked the vocal track so much that we took that one from the original as well. So without further ado, next song would actually be in sequence, kind of. We have this theme, if you didn't catch from the intro, is about Gidrick Muntz. The whole album history is kind of a concept album, if you would. It tells a story. Since this is an instrumental album, we had to put these skits in between to help tell the story. So when you watch the music videos, the thief shows Gidrick Muntz actually committing the act of killing his child. And in the music video, day 2 comes next, where Gidrick wakes up realizing what he's done and has kind of a flashback to having killed his wife. So this is day 2, and that's kind of why it's called day 2. Besides the real reason, which is just because me and Angela couldn't remember a song we wrote one day and then rewrote it the second day and liked that version and kept with it.
There you go. The bizarre way
and
we
just
name our songs.
One final addendum to this statement is that it just happens that all of our songs happen to fit right in with this story that we created, and day 2 is no exception. It kind of fits perfectly with what is happening. So,
right. That's why we kind of had to explain the whole album first. So here's day 2 by the Delphic Quorum.
guess it all started when Pop used to take us down to the creek to catch real young crawdads. It was a real shallow brook, but there's a spot where there's a cement drop-off and a waterfall that ran off it to make a deep pool, and me and my cousins could fish and swim. One time we took Mom with us and spent 4 days up there. And by the 4th day I swore I'd never leave. When it was time to go, I ran and I hid. They didn't find me till the sun was almost down. They were both pretty mad. On the way home, Mom was yelling most of the way. I can remember Pop turning around real quick saying, "Don't you worry, son, I'll bring you back here one last time before I'm gone." And then waking at me. Next night I'm sleeping at my mom's house. I can't sleep, but I can never sleep over there. It's different now though. Now Dad's home. But wait, does the sound of his car pulling into the driveway? It is. I jumped out of bed and started running down the stairs until I heard the door slam and Mom scream. This time it really is different. Daddy's always angry, but not this angry. They were both screaming. Then I heard a really loud noise and Mom was quiet. Next he starts heading up the stairs. I didn't know what to do, so I stayed still for some reason, hoping he wouldn't see me. He said, "I told you I'd take you back to the creek before I was gone." And everything went black, and that's when the real nightmare started. He hit me twice in the head, back with a large wooden mallet he used to keep in the shed. By now everything is fading in and out. There's another tool he used to keep in the shed, and sticks it really deep right between my belly and then my chest. And he starts to pull down. I tried to scream, but I can't. I know it had to be a dream or a nightmare, because you can never scream in your dreams. He ripped through my belly and tore everything out of it, even my lower parts, except he shinned off my arms and my legs. My body he threw in the oven. My head he brought back to the creek. And he threw it in the cement drop-off.
This is the Delphic Quorum coming at you live here on KWJUDAS on Free Radio Provo. We thank you all for listening to us. We just listened to a couple songs in a row there.
Huzzah!
And what we're doing here is we're introducing our new legendary, long-awaited album, History, A People's Tale.
It has been
It's been a people's
It's
tale.
been like a
for
decade
sure.
in the making here.
a decade. No, not quite a decade. The actual album about 6 years.
From the
Yeah.
time that we started recording, well, if you
20
count, you actually have to take into account that some of the stuff we used here was from your recordings.
From our EP that we made.
that you
Yeah.
started way back
Yeah.
in. That was released, I think it was released in 2015.
Yeah.
Around there. 14.
14 or
Yeah,
15.
released in
14-ish.
15, and we
And
worked
then-
on it at 14.
Did we or did we not borrow anything from
We
Chris,
did.
from
No,
Chris D?
we did.
For
So
Carnival
all,
Asylum?
No, not for Carnival.
I don't think we did. I think we re-recorded
We
Carnival Asylum.
completely re-recorded
Ah,
Carnival.
we'll get to that
That's-
song
that
later.
is true.
So what did we just hear,
But,
Wizard?
We just heard
We heard Naked.
totally naked. Right before that, the intro into it we call Exorcise M.
The Exorcise M.
Exorcise M.
Which, that was also just kind of a random name. We have the best ways of coming up for names. It was when Angelo was still part of the band. And that was sort of a thing we just were messing around with at first, and she considered it more of an exercise than a song.
It was like a warm-up. We would do it Judas would do it to warm up his fingers.
Yeah.
Angela would do it to warm up her bow and get it all rosined up.
It slowly turned into something.
It was our exercise song. We're like, we should keep this now.
So by the time Adam joined the band, we're like, yeah, this is kind of just a little thing that we've been messing around with. And adding the trombone gave it a lot more form. And so when he and Angela started actually kind of writing actual parts to it, that kind of went together.
So that's true. Now, the one thing that Angela would do, I said douche. One of the things she would do is have a few themes, a few formulaic ideas, and she would riff on it and kind of improv around it. And then that's kind of how I started doing it, too. It took some time before it started evolving into an actual part. And that one is still like the most complicated part because we kept trying to do the same improv over and over and over again. And eventually it settled on what you heard on it just now. Of course, that doesn't have Angela at all. But
and I have to mention my first memories of this song, Judas. I don't know if you even recall this, but
Why would I remember your first memories? They're your memories.
Of this song was you and me.
I mean, come on now.
was you and me strolling around through grocery stores and gas stations, playing banjo and hand drums, playing that song as our walking song.
That leading right into Naked
Yeah.
is kind of when we first started, or not Naked, sorry.
The other song, Black Spot.
Yeah. Well, it was actually it was
song.
both of them. Naked was in the process of being written when you and me were doing that.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of just a riff I was fucking around with.
Grocery stores, fucking around with that riff, and some of them got used to it and actually turn off their elevator music when we showed up and just let us play. We never got kicked out of any gas station or grocery store for doing this, which I thought was strange. We'd stand there staring at what we wanted to buy, playing our instruments. Acoustic, like in the grocery store, and
that brings up a question that I kind of had.
That was my first experiences with these tunes.
So,
indeed,
I'd like if Judas could kind of tell me again. It was about 12 years ago was when you first started it, and Angela was the first person. Right.
It was the two of them.
Now, it was them for probably a few shows. I think it was just 2, 3.
Angela and I only played one show.
I played their second show.
And so, therefore,
that
Wizard...
was Devil's Country's last show. That was the one on December 18th that I was talking about.
Okay, yes.
2009.
Mm-hmm. And so, just to keep the chronology moving... It was maybe, I'm guessing, about 2 years or so after that you guys brought in Sean Romero, right?
Cherub came in this is going to be a little bit difficult to put exactly into chronological order, but it was Ken Rom's brother's funeral wake party.
I remember that.
R.I.P. Ken Rom.
And R.I.P. Ken Rom's brother as well. That was at his wake party. His brother had just died, and we were asked to do sort of a wake party performance. And Cherub brought up a bag of auxiliary percussion instruments, and he just jammed with us improv because he was familiar enough with our music that he didn't do too bad of a job. And we were all so impressed with it. He had a jaw harp and washboard and spoons and shakers and all sorts of different shit, and we just night we were like, you gotta join the band, dude. Like, he had a didgeridoo as well, and we jammed with him for probably not even a year before we had our Halloween show.
Where did this first experience with him?
That was up Rock Canyon,
and that was the night that he taught us about the Plowman's Lunch, wasn't it?
No, that was up Johnson's Bowl.
Oh, that was up Johnson's Bowl.
That was we were just having a practice session. Remember, we weren't even doing a show.
Yeah, we were just.
We were all just camping, and everyone had our instruments, and so we just got our instruments and jammed. And Cherub created. I don't even remember what it was. Somebody went off, and they were gone for a long time. I think it was actually Shlong Bob. And so this is after he had joined the band. But now we're again jumping the gun. Shlong Bob joined the band after seeing us play for the first time with Cherub.
No, Cherub was not.
in the band yet.
Well, here's the deal. He may have been,
But
he may have played already with you guys, but he wasn't an official member at that point, or he wasn't able to be there. But when I first showed up over at a Halloween party, it was Judas and Wizard and Angela.
Yeah,
and
he didn't play that show.
Right. Okay, so he was in it, but he didn't play the show. But here's what it was. They essentially locked down their parts way, way, way better than I had ever heard before. And maybe I was inebriated.
I think you were more than inebriated.
I believe and I know that I was tripping pretty good, if I remember. And
he was hanging out with Lucy.
Yes, and that made a lasting impression on me that I could not escape. I had to be a part of it because I had never heard a violin and a theremin playing together. That was part of it.
Indeed.
But that's just how I got in it. For a while, the 5 of us, right then and there, was probably that was the most we've ever had in the band at once.
It was dope.
Up until Jeremy.
That's a later story, later.
Yes. So now we had Adam, his addition to the group, and I forget the story we were about to get into. Anyways, after a little while of us being quite the powerhouse, certain things kind of went askew and awry in people's personal lives, unfortunately, and
including and within the ranks of the band.
Yeah,
things were going awry as well.
So, unfortunately, Angela decided that she had to quit the band, and right after she did that,
and Cherub decided he had to quit life.
That's the best way of putting it. I was kind of stumbling for words. So Cherub quit life.
I could tell you were stumbling. That's why I helped. Sorry, I'm trying not to interrupt, but I saw you were stumbling, so I stepped in and was like, Angela decided to quit the band, and Cherub decided to quit life, and we had just finished.
We had just barely finished a song.
Epic song that we only performed once, and I'll let you finish, Judas, since you were telling the story. Sorry.
That leads us into our next song. This next song is called "They Quit and Killed Themselves," and that's why we kind of named it that. Is we had just finished this song, we didn't know what to call it, so in sort of a not necessarily sarcastic, it's more paying homage to our two friends and band members that contributed so much.
A little of both, but more in tribute to them because
there is
how much they meant to us.
A slight hint of satire because that's how Delphic Quorum rolls. We don't take anything too seriously.
And once again, somehow it fits the music very well.
Oh, it does.
And once we started adding Gederick Muntz, the whole Muntz story, it fits kind of well with that.
Perfect.
And we were literally sitting there, like, trying to decide what to call this song because we hadn't named it. We had not named it when she quit and he killed himself, and the 3 of us were at rehearsal, and I think you, Judas, you were like, well, fuck, man, I don't know what to do about this. They fucking quit and killed themselves.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, that's what we should call the fucking song.
Yeah, something like that. So without further ado,
here it is, everybody.
They Quit and Killed Themselves from the Delphic Quorum's, I was going to say upcoming album. It's still kind of upcoming. We haven't quite got things figured out with CD Baby.
All right, just let you know what
this
we
is. This is a review.
The CD itself came out just last weekend. We had quite the spectacular Halloween show.
Yeah.
And sold almost every fucking CD. So
absolutely,
a fat
Judas
chubby
sold all of his artwork.
That's right,
almost all of it. Yeah.
So with no further ado,
let's have it.
They Quit and Killed Themselves
and eat a fat chubby.
KWJUDAS Free Radio Provo.
Thank We interrupt this program with a special news flash bulletin from the Durpenshlee broadcast system. Hi, I'm Dinah Crunk.
And I'm Walter Shlong, coming to you with an exclusive Durpenshlee update.
That's right, Shlongbite. Suspected killer Gedrick Floyd Muntz of Gumption City, Utah, was finally detained at the scene of his own soon-to-be ex-wife's murder, Clementine Hodges Muntz. Gedrick also faces charges for the murder and cannibalism of firstborn son, Landrick Earl Muntz. What the fuck name's their kid, Landrick? What kind of name is Landrick?
The killer was being detained for treatment at the St. Simon's Animal Sanctuary for mental illness until he broke out late last night by pretending to be a peacock and frantically pecked at the deputy's genital gonads.
Thanks, Walter. We actually have renowned Professor Shlong Bob Von Peeve of the St. Simon's Animal Sanctuary for mental illness here with a live psychoactive analysis. Tell us, Professor, what is your professional opinion on Muntz's condition?
He's got cuckoo for cuckoo powers.
Thank you, Professor. We'll be sure to remain on the lookout.
Police and investigators suspect the killer's next stop will be his former place of employ, the Gumption City Carnival, where he was recently terminated for unlawful use of a public urinal. So if you were planning on taking your family out to the circus today, we strongly advise you to proceed with extreme caution. I'm Walter Schlongbite.
And I'm Dinah Crunk.
And that's the way it is.
We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming.
Man, that's my favorite disco song.
Which one? The FAP?
No, the Carnival Asylum.
Oh yeah.
disco song?
It is kind of a disco song.
Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
stole
call it our disco song.
We stole that from the 70s.
Straight rip off of ABBA. Well, it's an ABBA cover song. That was Carnival Asylum. I actually wrote that shit when I was like 16. Before that was a ridiculous sketch that I also wrote when I was not 16. Now I just write ridiculous sketches. I don't even write cool music anymore.
Judas here. All of the commentary you've heard, our intro and like he wrote those scripts, and I and Shlong Bob all acted them out.
And just another
besides the Shlong Bob's.
Yeah, just a quick shout out
Kid.
to the Totally Naked. In the middle, there was my son Gabriel.
So
Yeah,
he's
that's
also
what I'm talking about.
He's also screaming on the derailed Ferris wheel in Carnival Asylum.
That is
we
true.
have him and several other people.
Yeah, we have several of your
I don't even know if I
kids.
can remember who all was involved with the screaming.
A bunch of
on Carnival
Schlonglings.
Asylum.
A bunch of Schlonglings. We got the Spars,
Pretty
both
sure
of the Spars.
Courtney and Schmacky were on that.
Courtney and McKay both joined in on that one.
And didn't Joel actually join
Yep,
in for the
Joel
screaming?
gave a few screams.
Joel Pack himself.
Yeah, he
guested
actually
on
gave us a few
vocals.
screams. He
Which,
did the laughing with us. He
He's
did-
part of Rigby Road, if you guys didn't
He's the
hear
guy that we were
earlier.
recording with
Yes.
at the time.
Yeah.
And so before that, we had the space between the black spot in your eye, that elongated banjo ditty. And that, there's not much of a story behind. Besides, one time, Shlong Bob so eloquently misspoke, we just had to keep it. I don't even remember what he was trying to describe.
He was trying to talk. He was asking about, what he should
Well-
have said is, hey, your pupil. He said, that space between the black spot in your
Right,
eye?
exactly. Yeah.
And he should have just said, your pupil?
The black space in your eye.
Or the
black
space in
spot
your eye,
in your
or the
eye.
black spot in your eye. He just misspoke.
Any number
And
of
we
those
loved it.
things could have worked, but I
And we hadn't
combined them
named
all.
that song yet. We hadn't named that song yet officially.
Right.
It just was like, dude.
We were calling it the Banjo song. Actually, for years we were calling it the Banjo song.
Yeah, that's right. It was just the banjo song. That's
and
true.
then you said, you came downstairs, you guys, that
Well-
space between the black spot in your eye?
Yes.
And we all just started laughing our asses off. And we're like, that's so good. It's
yeah.
so bad.
It's
It's
so
good.
bad we should use it as there were plenty of
it's stuck.
songs that needed
So that's what we're going to
naming.
call this song.
And so they all have developed a name organically. I'm just
they
gonna
have.
tie it right back to the last one. They quit and killed themselves. You heard euphonium on the
Yes.
very, very end. That was actually me as well. But just to give you an idea of why that was there, They Quit and Killed Themselves was the first song that we came out with after, they quit and killed themselves. And so, therefore, it was the first song that Johnny learned.
Oh, yes, Johnny Robbins. We haven't mentioned him just yet. He joined literally a week after They Quit and Killed Themselves. We thought we were kind of done for, folks. We were at our grimmest hour at the Delphic Quorum. We just lost two members in less than a week.
Yeah.
2 members in a week.
My brother-in-law, Fardies, Matthew Spar, hooked us up with his childhood friend, Johnny Robbins, on the violin, who stepped in for about a year and lent his time for a project called The Life is a Circus,
Carnival
which was quite the project. We're not going to get into it. And then he shortly left after, and we continued on as a three-piece quite confidently for the next couple of years. Anyways, back to what you were saying about the recordings. The horns alone on those two banjo songs, Naked, Naked, Totally Naked, and the euphonium that he added, was a great addition.
Just the euphonium was at the end of They Quit and Killed Themselves.
Right.
And to tie it all back in, on The Thief I played the trumpet as well. But
Yes.
then,
In place of the violin.
in place of the violin, but then on the space between the black spot in your eye, that's where I really got to have some fun.
We kind of let Adam just kind of have control and pretty much do whatever he wanted with the horn arrangements. And God, even though we had to pay extra in the studio, I'm so fucking glad we did it.
Yeah. No, it was the right decision.
Well,
it's so good.
To give one small comment, I mean, I essentially played the violin part. That's
on the trumpet,
which he
trumpet.
doesn't
play.
then
Go
you
back
played,
and
like,
listen to that
4
song,
trombones and
kids.
some
Yes,
parts.
and so that's one thing, and then there were multiple trombone parts in the other, and I just like every time we listen to that, we just are thinking, man, this is like straight from a movie.
It's
and
a
like,
soundtrack almost. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like seriously soundtrack quality. The way those horns all harmonize and just that way to the ends, just. I mean, like I'm just like shit. This should be in a fucking Spielberg movie.
That's right.
If he still makes movies, I don't know. I don't really pay attention anymore.
Well, just one last thing. What you said earlier, we lost Johnny after the year, and it was the three of us for the majority of the existence of the Delphic Quorum.
Up until about 2019,
it was just the three of us for a
that's
long time.
Brooks Hyatt was brought in on saxophone, a friend of Adam's here.
Yeah, so
and he played Dreg's Mob Show with us, which is kind of an offshoot of the Delphic Quorum. It's like a hip-hop project where we do the instrumentals for other people to rap over, which has been very dormant since all this stuff has gone down.
True.
Since 2019, Brooks started playing along with us. We had another violin player who was interested in the band named Jeremy Kroll,
yeah, he's called that too.
Both.
He's named that.
And
he's called that.
He actually happened to be there at the same show for the first time witnessing us that Brooks really played with us.
Yes, and that was, just by the way,
just a house party in AF.
Not a planned performance, by the way.
No, Brooks was
My
so
gosh.
drunk.
Oh, yeah.
He showed up shit-faced. In fact, he didn't even have a horn, did he?
No.
He joined in on
brought it.
percussion
He
a little
did
bit. And Wizard forgot his stands, so he was just picking up the cymbals and smashing them on the ground.
And stomping on them from my hi-hat.
And so, wait,
it was quite the performance.
So, essentially, Brooks is out of his goddamn mind drunk.
He's tripping over all the chords.
He's
He
tripping.
unplugs you
He's
once,
falling down. And then, essentially, he's howling. He's going,
as he's laying on his back in the middle of our performance, and we just keep playing.
On stage with us, and we just don't stop. And we started kicking him.
Yeah, and then we started playing at him, and so we were all just encircling this
played
poor
right
drunk
into
kid,
his face.
Laying on his back,
Judas
whelping
took
to
a
the
seat
music.
on him.
I think
He sat on him.
Sat on him.
Yeah.
And he just he went with it and started yowling louder.
Yes.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Fond memories.
Fond memories.
So Brooks joined the band, and then more complications happened. It was very reminiscent of what had just happened about 5 or 6 years ago. Wizard had to quit the band, and Brooks had to quit life.
Although it didn't happen in such a short time.
Not in such a short time.
Still, it was
no.
they quit and killed
It's
themselves.
true, and I even made that announcement. I made
with
that
Angela
announcement.
and
Yes.
Sean, that was within less than a week of each other. With Wizard and Brooks,
probably about a year.
Almost a year.
About a year, yeah, almost.
It was like 8 months.
Something
Not
like
quite a year.
Right.
It's hard to say. I'd have to look it up to get the
6
exact
or 8
dates.
months. Yeah,
Right.
But either way,
It was just last February.
God
And
damn
so-
it! There was another. They quit. I'd never thought about the.
They're literally like
another
we
they quit and killed
had
themselves.
round two.
which is one other thing that makes Delphic Quorum such a goddamn remarkable band. A lot of bands have
Absolutely.
members quit. A lot of bands have members pass away. Brooks didn't kill himself, but we have had 2 cycles of
The
both
same.
of those happening quite simultaneously of each other.
Yes.
So once Wizard left, we had Alex, or AK-47, Owl X Megatronic Superphone.
No, Supertronic Megaphone.
Supertronic Megaphone.
Is that his stage name?
Yes.
It is now.
It is
Good
now.
Lord.
And he's on the drums, and he slays it. And in Brooks's stead, we've had Steamy Ray Vos, brother Steven Ramos,
Absolutely.
who is also killing it on the saxophone.
Yes, I met both of them around the same time when I got back into school at UVU, and it was the perfect fit for Steamy to join.
And Alex has been a longtime fan of Delphic Quorum. He used to be in a band called Sure Sign of the Nail, which we did a split with. Again, what was that? Maybe like 2016-ish? Again, kind of, I'd have to look it up.
That split was more like 2013
I was
going
gonna
to
say like 14. I thought 14. I thought the split was 14.
The split was before cerebral sphincter siphon.
It was. You're right.
Right before.
And it was just
Because
before
that's-
Angela left.
Because I had
That's
just
right.
so y'all the first 2 songs we produced, I taught myself how to record to produce them,
Right.
and had never recorded before.
Just keep it up.
Indeed. So let's get into our next song. We have.
So do you want to talk about Tin Can Lake before we close it out? Because that's all we have.
Actually,
outro,
sure.
Tin Can.
Well, the outro kind of, you'll hear that. It
And
speaks
then-
for itself. It's another goofy script that I wrote. Tin Can Lake is another one that sort of has gone through quite the metamorphosis. It was something that Angela and I just sort of batted around. And when we were playing it, I used to tell this ridiculous story of a homeless guy who would walk up and down University Parkway with a big, I don't know if you remember this, but he had a shopping cart full of stuff. And this was actually kind of based on a real person. And then I started stretching the story into what he would do in the wintertime is he would migrate up into the canyon, and he lived up there. And, I just kept it, turning this story into this thing. But I still kept it ridiculous. Like, he lived out on a frozen lake full of aluminum cans. So once we started bringing Gidrick Muntz into the playing field, we kind of just figured this would be the best way to end it. Rather than him getting dragged away by the police, or he dies in the carnival wreckage after he derails the Ferris wheel, because that's kind of what happens towards the end. After he's killed his wife and his kids, he goes on a killing spree and goes back to work at the carnival that he worked at. And that's what happens during Carnival Asylum. He derails the Ferris wheel, which goes on this spinning wheel of death, and kills hundreds of people at the fairgrounds, and the police just assume him dead, which gets explained later. So the story that we were telling about the homeless person essentially becomes the story of Gidrick Muntz and how he lives his life out up the canyon once you joined with us. If you remember how I would kind of...
I was going to say, I know y'all played it your first show, and I played it with y'all at our second show, which was Club Vegas. Bandwagon Live.
I was
my
there.
first show I ever
played. Still remember seeing that on TV,
Yes,
and I'm
I
like,
was
"Oh
there.
my god,
that was my
we
first
do not
performance
sound
at the Quorum.
anything like
No.
that."
That is
I
not
don't know
us
if
anymore.
we do anything that hardly anything we did anymore.
So after that, we Tin Can Lake was one of the first songs we ditched and put on the sidelines
for a long time,
and it took forever for
That
us
is
to
true.
resurrect
That was
that
the
one.
last
After going
one.
through many members.
That was the last
many,
one
many,
that
many
I
members coming
learned.
on.
And before we moved on to new songs with
Yeah.
me. Yes.
Yeah. On that note, let's go into the outro and Tin Can Lake.
Yes.
I think-
We're going to listen to Tin Can Lake, and we appreciate you guys all for your support over the last 12 years.
Yes.
And there's even been some talk of Wizard rejoining the Delphic Quorum, possibly.
It is a possibility.
We don't know how things are going to go, but it's nice to have him back on KWJUDAS, that's for sure.
Free Radio Provo.
And we also want to thank everybody who has ever been on KWJUDAS. We apologize for all the missing episodes. This isn't really technically the 100th episode. We've probably got, God knows, like upwards from anywhere from 20 to 60 missing
that we've lost over the
that
years. We can't find
got
files
lost
for.
on a computer that
And I have to
is
admit, there's
gone.
a chance of still possibly finding some of the scraps if I find a flash drive or two through. Anyway, that's in the future. Yo,
This is the not technical, but still the official 100th episode of KWJUDAS. And so, without further ado, Delphic Quorum's outro, Tin Can Lake.
Brought to you by Durpenshlee.
And in all the chaos of the flaming circus just burning to the ground, Gidrick fled off into the night, leaving everything behind. Knowing the police would assume him dead in the accident. And he was right. They never even went looking for him. He was presumed dead amongst many others. But the few who remotely knew Gidrick remember him always talking about a trailer way out in the middle of nowhere. Pretty close to where we're at right this very moment. Hell, they even say to this very day, on only the coldest winter nights, if you're willing to journey that late through that deep of snow, he comes down off the high mountains for food. They say you can find him out ice fishing every now and then in his little shack, just cooking up some pork and beans in one of them coffee can stoves you can make out of another tuna can and melted wax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. Just right out here, right around Tibble Fork.
But I thought you said we were in Hobble Creek right now.
Now, that is a whole different story worth the telling.
Hey, Durpenshlee kid. Whoa, what the heck are you trying to... Are you trying to accost that poor sheepy from the rear end?
Oh, Durpenshlee guy, I didn't know you were there. Now everyone will know.
Heavens no. Your secret's safe with Durpenshlee guy. I actually just couldn't help but notice your Velcro gloves were slipping.
Whoa, they are a little worn out.
Well, son, wear them out no more. Durpenshlee's got the new super deluxe full-body Velcro suit.
Whoa, really? Let me try it on.
Here you go, chum. Just zip that sucker on. Strap the sheep to your back and you're good to get out of here.
Well, then what do I do?
Why, my boy, once you get him home, you can do anything you like.
Oh, Durpenshlee guy, I can now accost more sheep than ever before.
And in the privacy of your own parents' house.
Yeah, oh yeah, yay.
Brought to you by Durpenshlee.
And
remember, if it doesn't say Durpen, it's not Durpenshlee. Yes, and don't forget to look for History, A People's Tale by the Delphic Quorum on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, everywhere else you kids look for dark, weird, creepy shit. Don't forget to look under your bed and in the closet. Make sure that Mommy left the door open. Thank you all for listening.
We'd like to thank you for joining us on another exciting episode of KWJUDAS on Free Radio Provo. We now bring you back to our regular free radio programming.